So the trade-offs perspective here acknowledges the competing interests, whether elitist, pluralist, vie for government control. Yeah, the rich folk and the people who love rifles and the coffee drinkers and whoever. I mean, there's just so many different groups, perspectives, everything that vie for influence, that want to get the ear of a representative or senator, that want money for something. That it's a lot. There are a lot of competing interests. And they produce government actions and public policies that are influenced by a series of trade-offs or compromises. A bill might start off with X intention, but by the time that everybody gets their hands on it and it's good for everybody through a series of compromises, well, it is what it is. That's trade-offs. So changes in involvement. So citizens, traditionally, they engaged in democracy through membership in an advocacy on behalf of small groups like churches, local labor unions, and other groups. That still exists. Today, though, society has changed quite a bit. Advances in technology, many citizens don't have the time or the inclination to be active members of a civic organization. You're not going to join a political party. You're not going to go to a protest. I mean, you're working 2 jobs, have 3 kids, and a mortgage. I mean, you can't do it. Instead, those citizens will join larger national organizations in which each individual typically plays a small role. Even so small as, okay, $10 in dues will get you membership with this organization for a year. And that comes with this, that, and the other perk. It's something. So social capital, it's the collective value of all the social networks and the willingness of these networks to work together towards a common goal. Civic engagement. A lot of definitions, I know, but we're just getting started. Increases the power of an individual to influence government policies and actions, and a representative democracy worthy of the name requires an informed citizenry to vote for candidates and advocate for desired policies, along with other forms of civic engagement. Now, how are we doing with that in the United States? That's for you to decide. How do we get engaged? Voting, giving money to a political campaign, calling up a senator or a representative, discussing issues with your friends, working for a political campaign, volunteering. These are all pathways to engagement. Presidential election years also traditionally see the biggest bump in civic engagement. For example, in 2008, approximately 2/3 of Americans engaged in some form of political action. Now, what happened in 2008, I know a lot of you, let's see, I think most of you watching me were probably born in 2005 or a little later. 2008, Barack Obama ran for president, and this was a big deal. So a lot of people got involved. So in 2008, activities that were undertaken typically included some form of impersonal action, like signing a petition or contributing to a political campaign. Now, signing a petition isn't quite what you think it might mean. In Illinois, for example, you have to circulate a petition to get and have that petition get enough signatures simply to get on the ballot For example, I'm just pulling a number out of thin air. Based on vote totals from a previous election, again, just out of thin air, a Republican might need 50 signatures to get on the ballot. A Democratic candidate might require 200, and all third parties, and third parties are defined as those that aren't Democrats or Republicans, might require 500. Again, there's a formula behind it. I'm just pulling the numbers out of air just to give you an idea. Americans under the age of 30 are less likely to engage in partisan politics. This is what the book says. I don't know. That hasn't been my experience of things, but that's what the book says, so we go with it. So Harvard did a survey in 2015. More young Americans claimed affiliation with independents, meaning not Democrat, Republican, or third party, just nothing. The Democrats, 36%, or Republicans, 21%. Americans under 30 are less likely to participate in political action. Again, not my experience. This could just be because I am a political science teacher, and I see and am involved in a lot of student projects that have to do with these things. So, I mean, not my experience, but take it with a grain of salt. Many engage in civic activities such as volunteering to provide community services. All right, so in addition to age, civic engagement is also greatly influenced by wealth and education. Wealthier and more educated citizens are more likely to vote. Wealth, okay, you have more time, right? Give more money gives you more time because you don't have to worry about your mortgage or how you're going to pay your electric bill or how much health insurance is going to run you this month, and you don't need to think, man, do I need to get a third job to pay these things? You know, this is what money does. It makes life a little easier. Education, you know maybe a little bit more than some others about what's at stake. You know a little bit more about the process, how to work within the process to get what you want. These types of people are more likely to vote. This, again, not entirely my experience, but I'm not going to argue with the book. So, 2018 Harvard. When it comes to voting, with which party do you consider yourself to be affiliated? More Democrat, Independent, Republican, so strong Democrat, 22. Does not lean either way, 1/5 of those surveyed. So here's a link to a Harvard poll conducted in March 2025. And this is instructive. Look at some of this, but I encourage you to go back and look at this yourself. So, four-year college, university, 17% of respondents. Are you registered to vote? 40%. No. That's a big old number. Yes, half were registered to vote that were surveyed. Half is low. Which of the following statements best describe your voter registration status for the last presidential election held on 2024? Half were registered. I was not registered to vote, 30%. I mean, we can't get change in the country, I mean, at the national level, at the state level, if we refuse to participate in the process. So, yeah, younger people, I mean, and this is basically true, younger people are more liberal than older people. I had a friend once when I was doing a program out at George Mason University. He said he was a Democrat, and he said he was a Democrat and his mom didn't like it, and said, Pat, you're going to be a Democrat until you really start working and figuring out that you like money. Then you're going to come over to us. I don't know if he did or he didn't, but there you go. So Pew, this is a reliable survey site, just FYI. If you see a poll from Gallup, if you see a poll from Pew, those two sites, you can trust them. Neither party has a significant edge over the other among voters in their 40s and 50s. Half of voters in their 40s associate with the Democratic Party. 47% are affiliated with the Republican. So it reverses with voters in the 50s. In their 50s, 50% Republican, 47% Democrat. So sometime in that 20-year gap, your 40s and your 50s, you start to change and become more conservative, according to Pew. And here, this is an interesting one. Younger voters are more likely to be partisan leaners than older voters. 18 to 24. Lean Democrat, 28 lean Republican. And you see this get smaller and smaller and smaller as people age. So types of government. There are many different types of government in the world. You should be familiar with a monarchy. Totalitarian, the state, usually controlled by a single leader or a small group of elites, controls virtually every aspect of citizens' lives. Monarchy can be totalitarian. Different systems can be mixes of different forms of government. Think of totalitarian for our purposes, kind of like the country of Russia at the moment under President Putin. So how are we doing with trust in government today? Not great, although it's increased very, very modestly. I'll try to make this bigger. If you see George W. Bush II, the highest, and this was September 11th, 55%, the moving average, and I think the low, like 10% trust in 2011. And it starts to go up. And it's they don't poll this stuff all the time, but it started going up again towards the end of Biden's term. I know 22% isn't anything to get excited about. And I definitely would encourage you to look at these polls in more detail than I am. Now I'd like to ask you several questions about our governmental system. First, how much trust and confidence do you have in our federal government in Washington when it comes to handling international problems or domestic problems. So international problems, 11%, a great deal, 24%, none at all. Then domestic, 8%, a great deal, 26%, not at all. I mean, not good. So the notion here that politics encompasses, and this is a running theme throughout the lesson, who gets what, when, and how, captures the connection between politics and power. Who gets what says something about who has the power. Like I said earlier, okay, Senator Durbin had the power to bring a new stadium to Peoria. When one gets what one wants says something about how important that individual or group is and just how much power the person or group has. Okay, Durbin could get it now. Must be pretty important. How the power is obtained speaks to the strength of the individual groups involved. So, politics becomes a mobilization of bias, where actors attempt to show spectators why they should care about and become actively involved with the conflict. So each side, or maybe all four sides, or all 6 or 8, or however many there are of a particular issue, are working hard to make you care about their cause and want to help their cause. All right? And the person who can mobilize the most bias, make the American people care the most, wins. And just by the way, just because I'm clicking through these slides does not mean they're unimportant. You don't need to listen to me go on about this for hours on end. Nobody wants that. So actors, people who are actively involved in an issue, a senator, for example, or an interest group, can build a base of support for their cause and achieve victory if they're able to mobilize enough people to join them. Example, groups seeking to open U.S. borders to more immigrants have brought non-immigrant groups to their side by showing how immigration divides families. For example, dad and daughter could manage to swim across the Rio Grande into the United States, but mom was unable to because she was 8 months pregnant, and now the two of them, mom and baby, are stuck in Mexico, and dad and daughter are in the United States. How terrible is that? Let the father meet his baby, engender some sympathy. And on the other side, advocates of stricter border control suggest that less restrictive immigration controls increase unemployment in various economic sectors such as agriculture and blue-collar labor. The key factor here, and this really is key, the understanding of politics is that a resolution is achieved through peaceful means. However much you argue, however much anything, politics fails when it becomes violent. When the first shot's fired, that politics is over. It's done. It's just a conflict now. So that is that. This is partially mine. It's partially integrated with OpenStax. And that is quite simply that. Just because, again, I skipped through some slides does not mean they're unimportant. You need to look at the whole deck. Okay? And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please reach out to me via email. if you have a question, I guarantee you 5 of your classmates have the same question, so please ask. All right. See ya.